Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out tonight for day 2 of Senior Sem presentations for the Communication Department. Both my colleagues and I really appreciate it. My name is Lauren Voitel, and I'm the first presenter tonight. Just a little bit of a background story of how I got started in filmmaking. I have an older brother, and so when we were younger, no matter what he did, what he ate, how he walked, who he hung out with, I would do it. I would mimic to the T what he did. And this especially applied to what he watched. All throughout elementary school, middle school, and high school, whatever he watched, I would watch consequently. And it was really cool, Dragon Ball Z, I watched it. Pokemon, I watched it. Yu-Gi-Oh, I watched it. And it was kind of funny because my parents would yell at us because we sat so close to the TV, and, they said, one day you're going to get glasses, and, well, I wear glasses now, and I didn't believe them, but consequently I got them. And so you could only imagine the fits that we gave them at that point in our lives. But the matter of the fact is that what he watched, I would watch, and this heavily influenced me, and it was really cool to bond over, TV as a medium with my brother. And so when it came time to choose a career, I knew that I really liked pop culture and TV itself, so I wanted to do something with it. And so when I came to St. Xavier, that's what I involved myself with, the communication department and student media. Now, to go over tonight's agenda with you, I'm going to go over my credibility, what is CougTube, Senior Sem 1, the implementation of CougTube, the testimonials, evaluations, closing statements, and any questions that you have for me at the end of this presentation. Now, I've taken over 30 communication credit hours here and 12 art credit hours here. I've taken Senior Sem 1 and 2 with Dr. Robinson, communication responsibilities with Dr. Mello, mediated message production and digital video production with Professor Kufdanienko, and perspectives on human communication with Professor Grubmeyer. Unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to work with Professor McAvoy or Professor Ron Mark, but I'm sure that you have inspired students just as much as you would if I had you as professors. Other credentials include working at WXAV for the last 2 years straight. Previously, I was Deputy Music Director and a producer. Currently, I am Program Director and a DJ on the production Wednesdays, noon to 2, 88.3 FM. Check it out. Other credentials also include holding a position on the Student Media Advisory Board for the past 2 years. I'm also a photographer for the Academic Awards, as well as Professional Picture Day with FMA. I am Public Relations Director for Mercy Students for Peace and Justice, and I'm an improviser for SXU's Unscripted Improv Club. I'm also doing Sister Story for this year, working with Sister Rita, and I'm going to be documenting her story and transcribing it. So CougTube, a little bit of background just so you are getting familiar with it and how I started it. I knew, first off, friends, courses in the communication department really helped to spark that inspiration within me to start working on digital film productions. And this also made me realize that SXU really didn't have any opportunities for students to, hone their skills in filmmaking if it wasn't a paid position. And so also being a part of the SXU TV committee, it made me realize that it was more for faculty and the university as a whole. And it wasn't really for students, and that's what I ultimately wanted to do. That was my mission. I wanted to create something that was for the students, of the students, and by the students. And so what CougTube is exactly that. It emulates just that. It's a vehicle for students to showcase their production pieces, to hone their skills and abilities in digital video production, as well as to strengthen their resumes for future careers pertaining in filmmaking. I will then click on the link for sxustudentmedia.com. I'm going to show a 5 to 5.5 minute video to the St. Baldrick's and then SXU Community Music. And if we have time, I will go into the Valentine's Day video. And that should equal up to 5.5 to 7 minutes. But it'll probably be 5.5 minutes with just the 2 videos. I'm also going to talk about how the design layout of SXU's media page worked. It was really interesting that I worked with Steve Tchaikovsky, the web design master for SXUstudentmedia.com. It was cool to see the way that we communicated was strictly online, so it was by email. And it was cool because, we discussed design layout elements, how we were going to have the navigation work. And so this was really cool just to, work strictly online with him. I'll play the videos, and then after the videos, I'll go into my next slide, and it's how did I do it? The incorporation of Senior Sem 1, So I knew that I wanted to implement a new area of student media within the university, but without the research, I wouldn't be able to do so. So first semester, both Dr. Robinson and I discussed researching the general systems theory while focusing on organizational change and communication. So Ludwig von Bertalanffy's general systems theory proposed that the laws that govern biological open systems, such as living organisms, could also be applied to systems of any form, like an organization. And according to Tubbs, the general systems theory originated with Ludwig von Bertalanffy as a way to think about and study the constant dynamic adjustments of a living phenomenon. This theory looks at the broader picture of a given situation that includes the environment of which the organization exists. It also looks at how the environment affects it in the different parts of the organization that interrelate to decide how well it is functioning. So why the systems theory? Well, Katz and Kahn advocated systems theory as a way to approach organizations because it was able to encapsulate both micro and macro concepts, human relationships, as well as the organization-environment relationships, so on and so forth. It was also to help develop a sense of direction that would be best for the organization at hand, to reduce misconceptions, and to become effective entities within. They would look at the general systems theory for guidance. There's also 4 premises of the systems theory, and it's designed to deal with complexity. It does so with precision. It takes a holistic view, looking at the broader picture altogether, and it's a theory of emergence. Now, why do organizations change? Well, organizations change all the time, but why? Well, organizational analysts recognize that attempts at organizational change often take unexpected turns and lead to transformations other than those intended. They also realize that change sometimes occurs unintentionally as a byproduct of other decisions and actions within the organization. This was definitely seen throughout my project. It literally morphed from a caterpillar into a butterfly at the end. And it's all because of why the organization changed. And it didn't change overnight. This took many months and many times of implementing and trying over and over again to get the right product in the end. Now, how do they communicate? How do organizations communicate? Well, people in organizations, they argue, they cooperate, they make decisions, they persuade one another, they solve problems, and they forge relationships. When this is done and others like them, they engage in organizational communication. How management, coworkers, and other colleagues communicate also affects how they feel about the organization and its climate. So this is very important when it comes to communicating, because the way you communicate can affect how, people are going to talk about it, how they're going to react to it, and how they're going to use it. So there's 2 roles of communication that I studied, and it was how people perform the function of communicating, and they're called boundary spanners, how they move the information. And it's also to provide a flow of information among the subsystems. And so this was definitely seen throughout the transformation model that I focused on. And it was the inputs, what energy is coming into the organization, what information is coming in, throughputs, how it was transformed, how you took that information and used it, and then the outputs, what was the ultimate outcome. And this was the website, as well as the videos made from the feedback that I got from not only the students, but from the faculty. So implementation. How did I implement CookTube? Well, as you can see from this organizational chart from 2014 from SXU, you can see that it is pretty pretty tedious, and there's a lot of different organizations and departments that you have to go through in order to address a certain department or subsystem of the whole system. And so as you can see in this slide over here, that I honed out student media, and it's at the very bottom under student life. And you can see that who the different people who were addressed to be able to rely the information. And I also had an opportunity and advantage within this because I work in student media and have been working in student media for the past 2 years. So I already had a working relationship with the director of student media, Peter Creighton. And so I was able to discuss different concepts and designs with him for KookTube from last year as well as this year and carrying it on, as well as talking to my senior SEM professor overseeing the project about how we wanted to implement it, what we were going to do once it was implemented, and who's going to take it over once it's implemented. And so relationships with and among various project systems and between levels of the system as a whole are maintained by means of information flow, which also can be visualized as a control device. Dr. Robinson, Peter Creighton, and the Student Media Advisory Board worked as control devices as well as boundary spanners, how the information was flowed from one person to the next and how the message was relayed. And because I had so many meetings with Dr. Robinson and Peter Creighton and the Student Media Advisory Board, it really helped to shape how KookTube was going to be formed, and as well as getting feedback from students. Speaking of feedback from students, I held various diner hours within the semester just to get students' feedback on, what they wanted to see in KookTube, what they thought the benefits of it were. And as you can see from this chart, who would use KookTube? That was the main question that I wanted to ask, and just because to see if it was going to be a viable outlet for students to use. Well, according to this chart and the data that I found, 88% of students at St. Xavier would use KookTube. 6% said no, and 6% said maybe. Now I also asked them through a fill-in-the-blank evaluation form what they thought the benefits of using KookTube were going to be. And since the slogan of KookTube was, or is, by the students, of the students, and for the students, it was kind of cool to see that the first thing that the students thought of for the benefits of KookTube was that it was to show student work. They also said it was a great place to express student interests, to see student events and school events, and to catch up on what's happening on campus. It's a great way to increase student involvement, and last but not least, to increase the college experience. Now, some testimonials from students are one from Brandon Swanson, a senior here. He said that the full implementation of KookTube will only help to enhance the way we communicate stories and information to students. Paul Granholm, a junior here, said that KookTube is one of the best ideas I have seen for our communications department. Not only will this help students, it will also give teachers a central location for all previous students' work, helping identify the best work from previous years and use them for examples for current students. Colin Smith, a sophomore here, said, it also adds a whole new community within oneself, it also adds a whole new community to involve oneself with. Anonymous said, being able to see SXU through more than just pictures. Last but not least, and my favorite, somebody said it spreads positivity. And this really resonated within myself because that's what I really ultimately wanted to do with this project. I wanted to be able to give something back to the SXU community and to enlighten the students and to give them more opportunities. And when they said positivity, it just really resonated within myself. Now, the ultimate question that I have for all of you in the audience tonight is, and for future years to come, will you use KookTube? Now, if you have any other questions, or any questions in general, I will be more than happy to address them at this time. And I'd also like to thank you again for being patient, for coming out tonight, and for being a really great audience. Thank you, and my name is Lauren Vitale. If you have any other questions pertaining to CougTube after presentations, you're more than happy to come and see me after. Thank you.